the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, if you look on the gigantic Sharp Interactive board, you're going to see some logos. Some of these logos you might recognize, some of them you might not recognize. But today I want to talk about IT services being delivered through the print channel. Those friends of mine that sell, supply, and service print equipment with aspirations to go into the marketplace and sell IT services. And some of these folks, I believe, well, they're getting into IT services based on an alternative reality that's never been proven out. And I really want the industry that I love, those friends of mine that sell, supply, and service print equipment that want to get into IT services, to do it based in reality. And that's why I've been so vocal about it. Because I believe there's a lot of folks running around talking to print dealers, trying to teach them how to build some lifestyle IT services company that doesn't have any way in hell of scaling. And folks, at the end of the day, we're not seeing a whole lot of home runs out there. There is a few, and the few home runs that we see in our industry around IT services have nothing to do with master service providers. We all know that a master service provider is an organization that does the back-end support for an MSP, as the MSP goes out and sells the master service provider's capabilities. I believe that all successful IT services companies don't use master service providers because they don't want to outsource the frontline defense. And folks, when you're just a little lifestyle company and you only want to have a $1 or $2 million IT services company, well, call up Collaborants. They're one of those master service providers. Call up ConnectWise Command. They're one of those master service providers, and have fun. But if you're one of my friends that sells, supply, and service print equipment and your company's already a $15, $20, $30, $100 million company, what in the hell do you want to build an IT services company that's based on a lifestyle platform? Doesn't make any sense, does it? I didn't think you'd think so. But folks, we're witnessing a major player, a major IT services company called ConvergeOne file for bankruptcy. Over $1 billion in debt, and the creditors are taking over the company. Over the last year plus, I've been talking about another financially not performing company, a company called Visual Edge IT. Visual Edge IT, well, they're in the print services sector. A roll-up of print companies, aspirations to be in the IT services deliverable. You've seen me share their BDC lender, Ares Capital's 10Ks and 10Qs on the show. We all know that Ares Capital, their BDC lender, wiped out tens and tens of millions of dollars in debt against a loan that sat in non-accrual for over a year, and then they took a preferred position on the balance of that loan. Not a pretty picture by any stretch of the imagination, and I believe it won't be long before we see the bankruptcy banner hanging over the Visual Edge IT logo. And I say that because when I listen to the leaders at Visual Edge IT talk about their deliverable, nothing's changed over the last couple of years. And if nothing's changed in the way the leadership talks about the deliverable, and obviously the deliverable cannot perform financially, because if it did perform financially, its BDC lender wouldn't be writing off tens and tens of millions of dollars. Ladies and gentlemen, I think about a company called Collaborants. Collaborants is the master service provider platform put together by Great America Leasing. And with Great America Leasing put together the Collaborants platform, I mean, it was a long damn time ago, folks, like 14 years ago. They were ahead of themselves. They were really trying to help the industry get into IT services. I've complimented them for that. But in all reality, I believe Great America should have exited the Collaborants platform a long time ago. I think things are changing so drastically in the IT services space that the Collaborants platform, the way it was dreamed of over a decade ago, in my opinion, is totally irrelevant to today. And I don't believe it'll be long before Collaborants goes away from Great America. And I've said that before. When I think about all covered, let me just get this right out front. I'm not a fan of Konica Minolta because Konica Minolta loves to go into our industry's media, go on our industry's blogs, and talk about all this nonsense, and they don't ever back anything up with facts. That's why I get so, upset with Konica Minolta. And I'm going to do an episode specifically on Konica Minolta addressing misinformation in the marketplace. Stay tuned, that episode's coming. But when I think about all covered, I think about Konica Minolta. running around, buying up all these assets around IT services, piling them up underneath the all-covered umbrella, going out into the marketplace, telling the whole world how they're kicking butt, knocking it out of the park, everything's great and all covered, when in all reality, Konica Minolta as a corporation hasn't made money. Folks, it's been a long damn time. They're getting ready to publish their FY, which ended March of 2024. Those numbers will be out in a couple of weeks. And we'll see again, they didn't make any money. And quite honestly, they never share any math or any details around all covered. So I deem it to be a total disaster. And they can talk about how it's great all they want. But if they're not willing to share the math with the adjectives, I'm thinking it's all bullshit. We think about our company up here called ConnectWise, and they have a product, ConnectWise Command. And ConnectWise Command is the old Continuum platform. Do you remember Continuum, the master service provider that was out of Boston? Going to come into the document imaging channel, those friends of mine that sell supply and service print equipment, they were going to be the master service provider for those dealers. They were going to help those dealers get into IT services. The folks at Continuum, they ran around and they tried to figure out who they could get in the industry that had relationships with people in the industry. And they ran around and they thought they could get dealers to get into IT services based on relationships. And at the end of the day, I wish that all these players that come into our space to try to get dealers to do something outside the core deliverable of print would base it on expertise and not relationships. Maybe it's time y'all realize it doesn't really matter who people know in the print channel. What matters is that we bring the print channel expertise so they can go into the marketplace and be successful. Because if we're going to build these platforms based on who knows who and great relationships and let's all sing Kumbaya and drink wine and eat dinner together, we're not getting anything done. We're not getting anything done. And I see this a lot. I see our industry with all these ancillary players that are trying to come into our industry to help the industry broaden its deliverable, and they're doing it based on who knows who in the industry instead of just coming into the industry with expertise to really help the dealers. Ladies and gentlemen, when you use folks from the print industry based on relationships to help you deliver your product through that industry, you know what happens? These folks that you use will stop you from telling the truth to the people you're trying to help deliver the alternative deliverable. They'll start translating what you tell them through the language of the print channel. That's not what you need. Quite honestly, I don't think you need any relationships. I think you need to come into the industry and form new relationships based on expertise that you're going to bring to the table. Not some relationship that somebody has because they've been hanging around the industry for 50 years. Just something to think about. You'll see this logo up here, New Charter Technologies. New Charter Technologies is a roll-up of IT services companies put together by Oval Partners, the same owners of FlexPrint. That's why I believe that Oval Partners would love to sell FlexPrint to Dex Imaging so they could focus on the New Charter IT roll-up. I would say this to Oval Partners and the New Charter folks. Pay attention to what the hell happened at ConvergeOne. And damn sure pay attention to what's going on at Visual Edge IT. There's some great lessons you can learn. Ladies and gentlemen, you can read about the ConvergeOne bankruptcy. It's in CRN. It's all over the place. And you know, we could talk about interest rates and where they were and where they are. We could talk about all the problems involved with financing, with chasing revenue at all costs. But folks, the reality of it is chasing revenue at all costs is going to come back and bite a lot of people in the butt. I read about ConvergeOne in the BDC Credit Reporter. I brought up the BDC Credit Reporter numerous times when I discussed a company called Visual Edge IT. Some people in the print industry actually thought I was making it all up, that the BDC Credit Reporter was just something I made up, and I'd write these articles about Visual Edge IT that just weren't true. And I would show the 10K and the 10Q from Ares Capital, and they just were made up stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, I assure you, the BDC Credit Reporter is all over. Not only our industry, but all industries. They're looking at all BDC lenders, and they're looking for the things that go wrong so they can share those things with the world. And BDC lenders, because they're publicly traded companies, you can find out all the information. And the information about ConvergeOne is out there. And thankfully, the BDC Credit Reporter reported on it. The information about Visual Edge IT is out there. And thankfully, the BDC Credit Reporter reported it. It's not made up stuff. Remember the big giant IT services company called CompuCon? And Office Depot decided to buy them? $1 billion deal. Remember that? And I'm sure that the CompuCon folks and the Office Depot folks got together in the Office Depot conference room and they talked about how fantastic it would be to sell IT services to the thousands and thousands and thousands of Office Depot customers. Ladies and gentlemen, what happened with that deal? Well, Office Depot exited that deal after a very short time, sold it off to a private equity group for $305 million. They lost over $700 million on a fantasy. It's impossible. It's impossible to take an IT services deliverable and deliver that product through another venue based on the relationships of the other venue. Delivering IT services needs to be based on the right persona, the right customer, the right stack. Discipline. It's not about, hey, we do this, let's join your customer base so what we do over here we can jam to your customers. Anybody that still thinks that has to be completely delusional. I think about the print channel. IT service, you run around, you buy up some IT services company, you're meeting with them in the conference room, and they're so excited because you have all these salespeople that are going to be able to sell your customers IT services. I said a long time ago, if a dealer owner meets with an IT services company, and that guy or gal says, I can't wait for your salespeople to sell our IT services, run! Unless he explains to you where those services are going to be sold within your customer base. Unless he or she can articulate to you that we're looking for the right persona. We sell the right stack to the right customer. All of your customers are irrelevant. The ones that are relevant are the ones that will actually use the service that we can deliver profitably. Something to think about. Ladies and gentlemen, ConnectWise Continuum. So Tomo Bravo, they own ConnectWise, they own Continuum. I write an article in March of 2019 and I say, I think Tomo Bravo is going to put Continuum and ConnectWise together. It's coming soon. And I shared some thoughts on what they could do with that deliverable. ConnectWise, Continuum coming together. I believe that if ConnectWise and Continuum could control a contract from birth to death, they could take that ConnectWise Continuum and they could go out to the enterprise space and they could sell IT service contracts. Because they could write the contract, they know what they're looking for, they know what stack they're going to deliver, and they could have controlled the contract from birth to death. And if ConnectWise and Continuum would have done that, I think they could have had something. But what did they do? They just wanted all the people that were using the ConnectWise PSA tool to all of a sudden use the Continuum Master Service Provider platform. And I want to make this real clear to everybody watching me. I love the ConnectWise software, the PSA tool ConnectWise. I love it. It's probably one of the best in the industry. What I'm not a fan of is Continuum, which they now call ConnectWise Command. I think these Master Service Provider platforms, I don't think they're going to take our friends in the print channel where they need to go. These Master Service Provider platforms are great for these little lifestyle IT service companies. You want an IT service company that does $2 or $3 million a year, let them run through ConnectWise Command. But if you're one of my friends in the print sector that wants to go out and move upstream and sell really sophisticated accounts that are needing compliance, and you're selling contracts for $100,000 a month, there's no way in hell you're going to put those customers on some Master Service Provider platform. And these Master Service Providers, whether that's ConnectWise Command, whether that's Collaborate, which is owned by Great America, they come into the print channel and they're trying to help the print channel build lifestyle IT service company. I think it's absurdity. And we have to understand where the IT services business is going. And where it was just 5 years ago is not where it's heading real quick now. Ladies and gentlemen, we've read the latest article where ConnectWise is letting go 100 people. I'm hoping all those 100 people are coming out of ConnectWise Command and they're going to just shut that whole thing down. That's what I'm hoping, or spin it off to somebody else. We're seeing the layoffs over there at Kaseya. We're going to see a whole lot of corrections with human capital in the IT services space. We're going to see a whole lot of private equity taking notice of what's going on at ConvergeOne. And folks, it was Orlando Bravo himself that once said, the time of chasing revenue at all costs must end, and it must be time to focus on profitability. And I believe that these private equity groups are going to focus on profitability more than ever before. And when you focus on profitability, human capital is a big component of cost. And you're going to see a whole lot of, well, let's just say human capital adjustments coming soon. Jason McGee in an interview with Channel E2E, and Jason McGee is the CEO over there at ConnectWise, talking about is ConnectWise going to sell, and I think he pretty much sums it up. I mean, you know, all things are for sale for the right price. I believe ConnectWise will sell. I believe Tomo Bravo will exit from ConnectWise, but I think they're going to struggle with the ConnectWise Command piece of ConnectWise. I think if they could unload the ConnectWise Command piece somehow, they could sell off the ConnectWise PSA tool. It's probably more valuable. I believe that continuum business that they put into ConnectWise, that they call ConnectWise Command, is nothing but a drag and a drain on ConnectWise. And if I'm wrong, they'd be more than happy to come on the show and share with me the details and the math of why I'm wrong. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to discuss IT in general. Remember when people argued the merits of break-fix models? Like you'd go to a meeting and you would say, oh yeah, we're doing managed IT services, reoccurring revenue. And the person you're talking to would be talking about the wonders of break-fix. Oh yeah, that's crazy. We're never going to do that reoccurring revenue stuff. I mean, I don't know how you guys are making any money of that. We want to go out there and pay. We want them to pay us when something breaks and we want to fix it. Remember those conversations? Now, if you had those conversations today, you would dismiss the person as a complete crackpot, right? I mean, you show up to a meeting and someone starts talking about the merits of break-fix. You're just going to get up and leave the table. It's like, okay, that person's a nut job. I don't even want to have a conversation with them. Today, those MSPs arguing the merits in low-dollar monthly contracts will lose, just as the break-fix business model lost. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say that again. Today, those MSPs arguing the merits in low-dollar monthly contracts will lose, just as the break-fix business model lost. We're in a new era. I believe you need to move upstream. You need to break away from master service providers. You need to go after customers that are compliant, needy. IT services are quickly transitioning to IT compliance. Unfortunately, few IT service providers will be able to transition. When I listen to leaders, and I'm just going to say who it is because we've all heard the interview. When I listen to the leader over at Visual Edge IT talking about running around selling a couple $100,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 service contracts for IT, I get a little scared because I don't believe you can scale that profitably. And then when you look at their financials, based on the 10Ks and 10Q at Ares Capital, you got to admit there's a problem. But when I see companies like my friend Milton Bartley at ImageQuest, and folks, I see his numbers, okay? I know what he's doing when he moves upstream. When I look at what's going on at Impact Networking and the customers they're selling and they're moving upstream. That's the future. Because these low-hanging fruit customers, ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you all a question. You see all these logos on the gigantic Sharp interactive board. Who besides a local lifestyle managed IT services company will create the needed infrastructures for the SMB end user? It's all about helping a customer with their IT infrastructure. That's what IT services is, right? Years ago, we climbed under the desk, plugged in stuff, sold the big monitors on the desk. It was a whole different IT experience. Building server closets, buying server racks, running a bunch of cable. Ladies and gentlemen, the SMB space, they're not doing any of that. It's all in the cloud. So of all these players you see on the gigantic interactive board, who's better to service these customers? And who can service these customers at a really low cost? And scale that globally. Well, AWS sure as hell can. Microsoft Azure sure as hell can. Folks, we're going to see some major changes. I've been talking to you for a long time. I believe AT&T will one day have cybersecurity as part of their stack, as part of their bundle. They might even have help desk as part of their stack, part of their bundle. They may do a deal with Microsoft and sell 365 licenses as part of their bundle. They like to bundle stuff. And AT&T is a pretty big global company, and I don't really care that AT&T got hacked. That's an irrelevant part of the conversation. If it's not AT&T, it'll be somebody else. And folks, let me tell you something. Everybody's getting hacked. And when you think about these little IT services companies, if I'm an end user and I'm thinking to myself, hey, this little IT services company, what happens when they get hacked? Holy crap. And then I start thinking to myself as an end user customer, what happens when AT&T gets hacked? I have a little more confidence that AT&T is going to have the billions of dollars it needs to unhack the hack, if you know what I mean. Or some little local company that might be an issue. And end users are going to be thinking about that more and more. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just go through some quick stuff here. We all know all covered. All this crap they rolled up underneath all covered. And at the end of the day, never got any math to prove any of it out. Chasing revenue at all costs must end. It's time to focus on profitability. As Konica Minolta focuses on profitability, something they really have to do because they literally suck at profitability. They're the worst one in the whole entire space. That's a fact. I'm not saying that because I don't like the people at Konica Minolta. I'm saying that because Konica Minolta as an OEM in our space is the worst financially performing OEM. And they have to focus on profitability. And as they focus on profitability, what's going to happen to all of this? Ladies and gentlemen, whether they're the leader at Konica Minolta, whether they're leader of a major OEM, they can go on these talk shows. They can write the articles in ENX magazine. But at the end of the day, you need to read these articles. You need to listen to what they're saying in these interviews and then apply reality to the alternative reality they speak of. I want to end it with this. The new Charter Technologies roll-up. I'd love to talk to the leaders of that company, but I have some very, very concerning worries as I watch a bunch of IT services companies coming together, keeping all their same names, having all these different personas, having all these different customers in a marketplace that's changing, in a marketplace where those low-end customers are no longer going to be relevant, in an industry that has a lot of leverage going on, a lot of debt going on, at a time when interest rates are the highest they've ever been. Some people believe the Fed's going to lower them. Some folks believe the Fed's going to raise them. But at the end of the day, the cost of money is so much more than it was just a few short years ago. So much to think about. Because, ladies and gentlemen, everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all tomorrow.